if you act too girly, then you'll, be ostracized. You won't be seen as cool by the guys. And like the only thing I wanted was to be cool by the guys because I got along with them so much easier. And it took me a really long time to sort of recode my personality. Like you can like whatever you want. You can do whatever you want, and you can be friends with women without it being seen as like an inherent weakness in yourself. Like that's a crazy thing to think.
You're listening to The Other 50%, A Herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. This is the podcast where I talk to successful women in entertainment and hear their stories. In this episode, I got to speak with Brie Castellini. By day, she's the Community Liaison at Stareable, and the rest of the time, she is an award-winning indie film and web series writer, producer, actress, and director. She's doing all the things. At the time of this interview, she was on her last week at MTV, but she will tell us all about that. You can find us at theother50%.com to see bios, photos, the blog, the merchandise, the pictures. You can find us on iTunes, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Stitcher, all the places. And I have another podcast called The Other 50%, A Herstory of Tech. You can also find it on iTunes, Stitcher, and wherever you get your podcasts. And it's also on the Other 50% website. That's where I talk to successful women in tech and hear their stories. Okay, here's Brie. What is your job?
Until Friday, my job is an associate producer at MTV. After that, I will be the community liaison at Stareable and insert a series of freelance jobs from there.
Okay, what's Stareable?
Stareable is a hub for web series discovery and reviews. I met somebody that you interviewed previously, or her partner, Olivia Baptista.
Yeah.
Her partner, Diane Chen. I met her via Stareable because Stareable hosts these New York local web series creator happy hours. And she and I got to talking. But Stareable, yeah, it's a website that kind of democratizes discovery of web series since they're kind of all across a bunch of different platforms, Vimeo, YouTube, among thousands of others. And they're trying to kind of make a catalog of them all in one place for people to recommend them to each other and review them and discover new content. And I am their community liaison, which means that I primarily write for their blog. So I kind of curate and write craft-based filmmaking resources and interviews with other filmmakers and things of that nature. I help with social media, and I do a lot of community outreach. So I let the founders know if they've missed a web series or if there is a certain creator that we should definitely be talking to about a new feature to the site that we want to create, things like that.
How cool. I am just finding out about this whole web series community. Like, it's a whole thing going on.
Yes, it is.
That's really great. Okay, now, this is a handy job for you because you also have a web series.
I do.
Let's go back to how did you start? You're a writer and a director and an actor. Take us back to, like, when you were a kid. What did you want to do?
When I was a kid, I knew I wanted to be a writer, but I come from a very pragmatic family. So as soon as I realized I wanted to be a writer, I decided I had to have a real job.
Oh, sure.
To support all the writing. So I went through a lot of things. I went through a graphic design phase. I went through a brief journalism phase, which I hated. I briefly considered becoming a lawyer because I was in speech and debate and was very good at it and really enjoyed kind of yelling at people and being right all the time. Which is why I love being a director. It's a fantastic transition. But then eventually, a couple of years before I started college, I realized that the only thing that, dedicating a lot of time to a secondary job was, the only thing it was going to do was take time away from the thing I actually wanted to do. So I bit the bullet, went to undergraduate college for creative writing, and then got my MFA in writing and producing for television and decided, nope, this is what I'm doing.
Good for you. So many people spend 20 years avoiding what they really want to do. So good for you. So, so what has happened since you graduated from your master's program?
So actually on the last day of my master's program, I got offered a job at MTV. I had been an intern and a temp there prior to that, but they offered me my first full-time job there. I was an associate producer in digital development for their digital video team. I helped pitch and research things for their like YouTube, Snapchat, Twitter, and Instagram video platforms. And it was a fantastic job. It will be, my contract ends this week, actually, the week that we're recording this, but I've had a wonderful time there, and I've learned a lot. You know, being at such a huge company has definitely opened my eyes to sort of the ways that the industry works. And I also continued to create my own content. I shot the second season of my web series after I graduated, and I also shot a short film that I am currently shopping around to a couple of film festivals, hoping to get noticed.
Okay, tell us the names of those projects. The series is called what?
Brains. So Brains is my web series. It's a web series about love, friendship, neuropsychology, and zombies.
As you do.
As you do. That's probably the most me sentence I've ever said. So you can turn off the podcast now. You figured me out.
That's like your defining sentence.
It very much is. And my short film is called Ace and Anxious. It's about an asexual woman who has generalized anxiety disorder, and after doing some research, she discovers that one potential cure for her anxiety is having sex, and so she decides to place an ad on Craigslist to test this out, to get somebody to come have sex with her to see if it will cure her anxiety.
And how does that go?
You'll have to watch the film. It's kind of just like about the process of like this insane thing that she's done, and she's like auditioning people to potentially have sex with her to cure her anxiety, and it's sort of like the hilarity that ensues from that, and her discussions with her therapist, who is very concerned about this whole thing going on. That
is so funny. I watched the trailer for that. It does look really clever. That's really fun. So is that film finished and you're shopping it around?
It is, yeah. We finished post-production in February. The screenplay has actually been in 5 festivals already. It's won 2 for Best Short Screenplay. So the screenplay is doing really well. I'm really hoping that the film does even better, because obviously I want more people to be recognized. My wonderful actors and my wonderful crew. They did such an incredible job on such short notice. So my lead actress was moving to LA less than a month after we made the film, so we kind of had to speed up some of the production aspects, but it came together so wonderfully, and I really hope people enjoyed the film.
That's great. Well, I was looking on your website, and you've already won tons of awards.
Yes. So Brains, which was my first project, has won at 2 festivals. It won Best Web Series at the Bloody Horror International Film Festival in 2016. And recently it won Best Original Idea at the Web Series International Trophy. It's not exactly a festival. It's just a kind of an awards ceremony thing that happens every couple of months online. So that was very cool. We've also been as an official selection in 20 other festivals for that series. So we've been around, definitely. And then the short film, like I mentioned, has been, the script itself has been in 5 festivals. It's been the official selection at 3 and has won Best Short Screenplay at 2.
That is great. Did you start that series before you even graduated?
Yes. So the Brains, the first season I made during the summer between my first and second year of graduate school. We had to make a pilot for a web series for a digital media class for my second semester. So everyone in my class made at least 1 episode of a web series, but me and a couple of other students decided we wanted to keep going. I had already written a full season, as had a couple of other people. So we kind of did like a round robin of productions that summer. We produced 3 different things, and that's not even including, all the other stuff that we were doing. But yeah, so the first season was made between my first and second years, and then the second season was made the end of my second year and beyond graduation.
Okay, so you're an overachiever. The assignment is to do a pilot, so you write a whole season.
Actually, it gets worse. I knew that we were going to have a web series class, and so I had actually written the script before the class started because I wanted to be ready when the class started. So I had looked in my syllabus, seen that we were taking a class months and months away, and decided to write the series before that class even started. So I was as prepared as possible.
I love it. So you are just going to make content by hook or by crook.
Yes, I am.
Now, so you have a bunch of different roles: writing, acting, and directing.
Producing, yeah.
Oh, and producing.
Yeah. Producing is a big thing other than writing.
How do you see those different roles? Like, do you find you have to take on different characteristics to do those different pieces?
Honestly, the only one that's kind of statistically significantly different is acting, because it's not really a priority for me. Like if I had to drop one thing out of all the things that I do, it would definitely be acting. I really enjoy acting, and Brains was sort of the first time that I really got to spend a good deal of time with a character. I'd done, various performances in high school and college, but this was the first time I got to really dig my nails into a character. And so acting is definitely a very different situation, because you can't always be in control in the same way that for these other ones. But, for producing and directing and writing, which are kind of my main three things, those sort of flex the same muscles, which is like creative problem solving and sort of being confident in the thing that you are making. So like those things they kind of come naturally because they're all sort of a part of the same process. But acting is very different from all of those. It's a totally different muscle. And I definitely like to explore it more, but it's not a priority by any means.
It sounds like it's kind of your means to an end. Like, I need someone to play this character, I'm just going to do it.
Well, that's literally what it was. Originally, the character in Brains that I play was, I had imagined her as being blonde and very different in a lot of ways. But yeah, we literally cast me in that role when we were kind of deciding how we were going to make it, because there was no way that we were going to find another woman to do it for free and be on camera for every single episode to do as much stupid things as we had to do. So we were like, I'll just play her. It'll be fine. And that ended up defining the character in a lot of ways. So I'm glad that I got to play her, and I'm glad that she's a part of my life. But that was definitely not, it was definitely a plan bred out of practicality rather than like, oh, you're the perfect person for this role.
So necessity is the mother of invention.
Absolutely, especially in independent filmmaking.
Now, tell me this. You sound like a very confident person. Is that true? Is that real?
It depends on the moment and the situation. I grew up very kind of awkward and strange, so I did not have confidence for a very long time. But then when I discovered comedy, I realized that it was a lot more fun to fake that you were confident versus fake that, like, you hated yourself. So I started just sort of like making jokes like, oh, I'm amazing. Like, that's why I did so good at this, or, whatever. And eventually that sort of like tricked my brain into thinking that like I was doing better than I was. So now I have like a healthy balance of like joke confidence and real confidence. There are enough things that I've done at this point. I have done enough things where I'm like, these are a couple of things that I feel very good about, that I feel confident in expressing as like, fields of expertise, things that I know I can do no matter what. And then there are other things like I could probably do that, and I could probably fake that I can do it until I get to the other level of confidence with it.
So you've accumulated enough evidence to show you that you can just totally do this.
Oh yeah, or I faked it well enough that I have enough like exhibits that look very impressive that I can show off, even if I'm not 100% fully confident in the jazz hands that I'm putting up in front of everyone to distract them until I figure out what I'm doing.
Yes, Exhibit A, jazz hands.
Exactly. Exhibit B, also jazz hands. A lot of jazz hands in this presentation. Please buckle in.
Well, show business is all jazz hands.
That's what I found, actually. That's my one takeaway from show business.
Now, knowing that, I mean, I'm sure you've heard how pathetic the numbers are for women in this business once you get out in like studio productions. Yeah,
I actually keep a row of statistics on my phone at all times that I can look at and think, I'm going to raise that number and that number and that number.
So you are undaunted.
I am undaunted. Yes. For the purposes of a lot of things, I am undaunted. I am more like obstinate. It's one of those things where it's like, if you challenge me, I will automatically feel more confident about my success rates because I really don't like losing. So, if I do something, I'll want to do it well, and I want to do, succeed at it. But if you tell me that I can't do something, or that it will be harder for me to do something, then I'm even extra confident that I will do it because I really want to crush that expectation.
All right. So your competitive spirit is going to take you all the way. I love it. So in addition to creating your own content, are you also pursuing trying to get into more commercial mainstream production?
I would love to. It's one of those things where the avenue is unclear at this point. You know, a lot of people come to it through independent content, so I'm definitely going to keep making stuff of my own no matter what. But it's also hard that I live in New York, and most development stuff doesn't happen here. So like writing is my primary sort of skill set, and it's the thing that I have 2 degrees in now. So it's the thing that I definitely want to do and focus on. But most writing happens in LA, and I am not quite ready to make that move yet. And even if I did, I really wouldn't know where to start. There's so many ways to get into the industry, and I just haven't found the one that's going to work for me, if that makes sense.
It does. And no 2 people's journey are the same. And I've talked to so many people who were in New York, and then it was, boom, you got the job in LA, be there on Monday.
Yeah, basically.
But you can write anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you can, maybe not mainstream, like late night. If I wanted to write late night stuff, this would be a great place for me. And there's a lot of like pretty clear avenues for that, but I'm not that kind of writer. That's not my strong suit. So that kind of doesn't help. But I'm kind of hoping that I either become successful enough in independent creating that I can just keep doing that or do some variation on that, or I eventually get the sort of attention of a more traditional venue and they give me a real job.
Yeah, I love it. It's funny you say you're not, that late night isn't quite right for you, but I hear you're so funny. Like, I can see it.
I appreciate that. It's more of the writing style of that. Like it's a lot of hard jokes, and I'm not great at hard jokes. I'm good at like situational comedy and like comedy that's kind of based in character and sort of like taking a scene and because the characters, the way that they're speaking to each other is very funny. But like hard jokes, like a one-off kind of zinger, I cannot for the life of me come up with that. That's just, I find it very funny. I just like have not figured out how to actually write that. I would not be confident. That would be one thing that like, if you interviewed me like, hey, do you want this job writing late night? I'm like, please don't. No, thank you.
Yeah, I can hear all those guys right now saying, hey, it's really hard. You don't even know.
Yeah.
Who is your inspiration?
For web series, for traditional television, I have
for anything, for this art.
This art. Well, my traditional examples would be Mindy Kaling, Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, Amy Sherman Palladino. All of these incredible women who write just such funny, honest, authentic things. I really like Mindy Kaling because she's, one of those gals that writes and stars in her own stuff, which I am always impressed by. And, the more things that people do behind the scenes and in front of the camera, the more impressed I am, because it's kind of like the style of career that I want. I want to be somebody who does as many things as possible.
Yeah. And how many things they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And I love like knowing that that they're successful doing that. It's not like they're overwhelmed and like drowning. It's like, no, I can do all of these things and I'm crushing it on every level.
They are killing it.
They are. Like Mindy Kaling, she's got like, I think, at least 2 other pilot deals right now.
Yeah.
In addition to the Mindy Project having one more season on Hulu. Like she's doing fantastic. And then in terms of web series, some of my favorite creators are, the people behind Shipwrecked Comedy, who just came out with a really fantastic web series called Edgar Allan Poe's Murder Mystery Dinner Party and Potluck for Friends. I think there's actually another phrase in there that I missed, but it's a very funny show, and everyone behind that show and all the other things that they do kind of as a group are incredibly talented. Yuling Kwang, I think is how you pronounce her name. She sometimes directs with them, but also directs and writes her own projects. She just had a CW Seed web series go up, called I Ship It, that was really cute and fun, and I really like her directing style. And then Kate Hackett, who is the creator and star of Classic Alice, which is a web series that I'm a huge fan of. And she's one of those people that creates, stars, produces, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm always just impressed by people who kind of do it all.
Oh my God, you are really plugged into what is happening out there.
Well, now that I'm the community liaison for Stareable.
You better be.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I gotta.
It's my job. Yeah.
I mean, at this point, it literally is.
Now, going back to those lists of women you rattled off, have you read all their books?
Yes. Yes. I think I read something like 7 or 8 books in a month last December. I was just like in a mood to read female comedian, like autobiographies, but yeah, I've read all of them. I've read Mindy Kaling's books, both of them, multiple times. She has one, chapter in her recent book called I Love Sex Scenes, which is very funny. And and she talks about like how some people think it's awkward if you write a scene for yourself that you then have to act in, like if you're kissing or like doing other stuff with actors. And I had a scene in my web series where I had to make out with another person, and I was very nervous about it because I had also written it, and it felt kind of easy. Like, hello, friend of mine, I've written a scene where we have to make out 7 times. Please come here at this particular time and wear this, and we will commence the making out. And so I reread her chapter on that to try to like make myself feel better. Like, if Mindy Kaling can do this, then I can do it.
Yeah, it sounds a little self-serving, but it serves the story.
It does. It was not gratuitous. I promise. It was not as skeevy as I felt like it was.
That's so funny. I always get those books like around Christmas, and then we'll just eat them all up. I think they're so delicious. And don't you just want to be friends with all of them?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I feel like I would be such good friends with them too.
I know, right? We would be.
Call us.
We'd be so BFFs. Did you also read Lauren Graham's book?
Yes, I did. She's so interesting. I didn't realize that she was a writer and she had all these other things going on. And it's like, good for you, Lauren Graham. Good for you.
I take it you're a Gilmore Girls fan?
Oh, yes. I actually hadn't ever seen it until like a year or two ago. And then I became obsessed. And when I finished my Netflix binge, I like literally felt like there was something empty in my life. I was like, what do I do now that I don't have new Gilmore Girls? What is happening to me?
Thank God they did the reunion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
oh
I kind of hope they leave it at that, honestly. Like, I've seen kind of murmurings of like maybe bringing it back for another 4 episodes, but like, I feel like at this point they're going to be beating a dead horse, and they should just sort of let those characters be. Like, I love the show, but I think at this point, like, I can't watch Rory have another affair. It'll kill me. It will kill me to watch Rory have another affair.
Can you believe what happened to Rory? I mean, she just became so flippin' normal. Like, it's heartbreaking.
It really is. In high school, she seemed like she was going places, and then like
she had so much potential.
Yeah, and then like the series ending with like her going off on the campaign trail and all that stuff. I'm like, good for you, Rory, you figured it out. And then no, literally reset. And I think a lot of that was because of the kind of conflicts behind the scenes where Amy Sherman-Palladino and her husband weren't in charge of that final season.
Yeah.
And so like there were a lot of things that they wished they could have done, and so I think they kind of hit reset on the characters back to like season 6 versions of themselves so that they could basically write the final season that they wanted. Which is, I can understand, but at the same time, it's sort of disappointing to like take all of this character development that was done sort of outside of their supervision and just sort of render it inert.
Yeah, it was so heartbreakingly human. Anyway, I could talk Gilmore Girls all day, but back to you.
Let's just keep talking about Gilmore Girls. I have nothing else. I have nothing else interesting to say. Let's just do Gilmore Girls the rest of the time.
Now that is just not true. What is next for you? What are you working on?
Well, I honestly nothing huge right now because I'm at the end of this week. My job at MTV is ending, and I'm also moving apartments. So my life is kind of in chaos right now.
So you're busy.
Very busy with life stuff. I am producing, helping produce, and among other things, a couple of other projects for other people. I'm stepping in to associate produce on the web series History for their season 2. I'm associate producing and assistant directing a new web series called The Motherlode that we're hoping to start filming in August. I'm hopefully going to be producing and directing season 2 of the web series Stray sometime in the next couple of months. So like I've got a couple of projects that other people are doing that are kind of bringing me on, all of whom I've met via Stareable, actually. Stareable is a fantastic website. Everybody should check it out. Not just because I'm employed there and my job depends on it, but also because it's a fantastic service for independent, web series creators. We're really trying to build a community and a resource center to kind of bring us all together instead of these little fractured like Facebook groups and Twitter conversations. We want to kind of bring them all together so we can all kind of support each other and discover each other and help each other out. But yeah, so that's kind of what's next for me. I'm hoping to get a couple of projects off the ground before the end of the year, but it seems like this year is sort of the transition year for me where I'm meeting new people, helping them out, and kind of getting my life in a certain order.
Okay, now if that's your list of you're doing nothing, then I can't wait to hear when you're doing something.
No, like I'm not, for me, it's like I don't feel like I'm doing something unless I am producing something I'm writing. Like I finished writing Brains. I wrote 6 seasons of Brains. We're not going to film any of it because it's far too expensive, but I did write all 6 seasons. So that might be something that I do like a film table read or something with at some point.
Yeah, well, and if nothing else, you have all those scripts in your pocket.
It's true. It's true.
Now, can I assume you are under 30?
I am. I'm 25.
Oh, my word. You're already doing so much. Now, I've talked to a lot of women who are a bit older, and a lot of the women directors I've talked to have gone through a lot of thought about how they present themselves, how they do the job of directing. You know, they're careful about what they wear, how they talk, how they make decisions in order to not suffer gender discrimination. Is that in your realm of what you're thinking about?
It's definitely something I'm thinking about. You know, the statistics that I have on my phone that I pulled up, that like literally is in like a notepad is, you know, there are 6% of directors of like the top grossing films in 2015 were women, which is a deplorable number.
It's embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on in our world right now that are very embarrassing, but that is the most personal one right now.
Yeah.
I have not experienced a lot of it personally because I have been sort of the creator and sort of leader of the productions that I have worked on. So anyone who is coming onto a project that I am directing, you know, it's my project. I've written it, produced it. Like I've pulled together a team of people who I already know, who I trust and things like that. So I've been very lucky in the sense that the people that I have worked with, you know, their gender is irrelevant. They trust me. They trust my vision. They trust that I've got everything together, that I know what I'm doing, and that I will, you know, make sure that it's worth everyone's time. But it's definitely something that I've thought about in terms of like eventually, hopefully breaking into the more, traditional realms of production. And I worry, you know, my web series, which I love very, very much, which is my baby. The first thing you see on screen is like my boobs in the camera and, you know, and I'm making jokes about that. And like, I think it's hilarious and like, you know, and it's definitely a part of the character and stuff. But there are, you know, some moments where I feel a little embarrassed to bring up the projects that I've worked on because they seem, you know, so quote unquote girly. And I'm afraid that I won't be taken seriously because like, you know, my first major project that I spent, you know, 2 years on is about a girl during the apocalypse who wants a boyfriend. And, you know, and that's used for humorous effect. And, you know, the show is about so much more than that, but like that is sort of the crux of it. And that's sort of what comes across in the first couple of episodes, because that is sort of what the character thinks the show is about for a little while. And I do kind of worry that like, you know, particularly the male sort of hiring managers that are out there, because most of them are male, will look at that and think, oh, this is silly. This is too girly. Like we can't give her something with more meat on the bones. Like we just got to give her, you know, the boring, silly, inconsequential things. And so I worry about that sometimes, but then I remember that I'm really, really proud of the work I did on Brains and that I did so much more than just, you know, write something about a girl who wants a boyfriend. Like I proved my producing chops. I proved my directing and writing and acting chops. And so I kind of just have to like reframe in my mind sort of like the negative, shallow way to explain stuff that I've done and try to reframe it in terms of like, no, this is a really interesting thing that I've done. And I can talk about like what makes it more than something shallow and silly. Like I have something to back me up. Like where is all that confidence that I have faked for, you know, 10 years? Where is that now? Bring it out.
Yeah, it's funny. I was reading an opinion piece in the LA Times yesterday, a woman talking about touring with her book that was about motherhood and having it valued less and being dismissed because it was a woman writing about a female experience, as if that is somehow less than and less valued. And in our society right now, it is. But if you look at it, women are half the population. And just because we've all been conditioned to think stories about men are the important stories, stories about half the population are still valuable and important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's always frustrating when it's like a movie about a man comes out and like it's considered a war movie or a movie about, humanity or whatever, but then like
it's universal.
Exactly, but then when a movie about a woman comes out, it's like, oh, it's a female perspective on this, or it's a woman's movie, like only women will watch it. Like it's a movie about the exact same thing that the man movie was about a couple years ago. What makes it different? Like what makes it less than because there's a female helming it?
Exactly. Or it makes it less interesting. We watch stories about men all the time. So
yeah. There's nothing less interesting than a story about a man at this point.
Okay, this is my mission of the week, is to recondition the culture to value women's stories as much as we value men's stories. So keep doing it.
I do my darndest. I tried to write a story with a male lead, but like it feels wrong. It's like I have mostly male friends, so I already feel bad about like not contributing enough to like raising other women up. Most of my crew is men. I have so many close male friends, but I was like, all right, fine. As long as I have a female character in the lead and I am in like a position of power on the production, I'm doing some, and then I'm, actively trying to build relationships and friendships with other female filmmakers. So eventually I can break my own self kind of out of this little patriarchal bubble that I've created around myself.
So you are doing your part.
I'm trying. I am trying my darndest, but I have so many years of conditioning of like, I'm one of the boys and that's a good thing. Like I should, not be around other women because then, men will see me as silly and whatever. And I don't want to be like any other girl, like blah, blah, blah. Like there was a lot of that kind of in my life when I grew up because I was nerdy and awkward, but I was like not traditionally feminine in a lot of ways. So like I gravitated towards boys when I was growing up, and it was like nailed into my head. Like if you act too girly, then you'll, be ostracized. You won't be seen as cool by the guys. And like the only thing I wanted was to be cool by the guys because I got along with them so much easier. And it took me a really long time to sort of recode my personality. Like you can like whatever you want. You can do whatever you want, and you can be friends with women without it being seen as like an inherent weakness in yourself. Like that's a crazy thing to think.
Ooh, that is some BS we are conditioned with.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
Oh, that stuff is deep.
Yes, it is. And like sometimes I'm still discovering it. I consider myself so woke, and then I'll be thinking something one day, and I'm like, oh my God, where did that thought come from? Go away! How dare you, brain? You don't get to think like that anymore. That's a crazy thing.
Well, you can't even help it. We've all been conditioned to patriarchy. It's a big process, peeling back all the layers. I'm really encouraged that you are so conscious about it already.
Yeah, it's something that I learned about in college and have never kind of shook, especially once I realized like I didn't want to just be a writer, I wanted to be a screenwriter, and I wanted to be, in the entertainment industry, and like it was kind of the profile of how badly women were treated in media was sort of raising in my awareness, and it sort of hit peak awareness when I decided to enter into that industry. And I was like, oh, all right, this is what I'm getting myself into. I'm going to learn as much as I can and very consciously try and like make this better because this sucks. And eventually I want to create a world where a girl growing up in my position doesn't feel this way, doesn't have to like search so hard to find stories that relate to her, will get more than 2 lines in a movie, will be more than 30% of on-screen speaking roles, things like that.
Good for you. Play it to win it. Now, what's your big dream?
Man, big dream. Honestly, just to be able to support myself with my art, like whether that's an independent kind of sphere, like creating my own production company and kind of running it like that, or getting to be a staff writer or a showrunner on a TV show. I want to be able to not have a day job, to not have to worry about side hustles and freelancing and what have you. I want to be able to say, I am a professional filmmaker and be able to live a simple existence based on that.
I'm going to play your older sister therapist right now for a second. You can dream bigger.
I mean, is that not bigger? Because, like, I'm looking at my rent right now, and I'm like, if I could literally just make a little bit of money from this stupid web series I've made, I would be so happy.
Here's the thing. You're going to. You're going to. That's the first goal, is support yourself doing your art. But then, you know what? Go for it. Go for it super big. This is the advice everybody's giving me on these podcasts, so I'm just passing it forward.
No, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the faith. All right, I guess big dream would be to be a showrunner for my own TV show.
There you go.
I want to be in charge of a group of writers and a show, probably on a streaming platform. I feel like the things that I do are better suited for sort of streaming, bingeable purposes, things like that.
There you go. Good. Do it. Now, this may be early in your career to ask you this, but are you a success?
Oh, boy. Relative to who I was a year ago, absolutely. And I think that, especially this early in my career, that's a good place to be, is be better off than I was last year or the year before, constantly topping what I have done already.
Absolutely. Are you a badass?
Yes.
Nice.
No hesitation. That one, success, I don't know. Badass, absolutely. Yes.
We're going to own that badass like nobody's business. Now, I think we covered this a little bit earlier, but do you ever feel like an imposter?
Yes, all the time.
And you're doing it anyway.
Yeah, I'm a very badass imposter. So.
Good for you. What advice would you give to women who are 10 years behind you?
Start making things, even weird, small, experimental things, as soon as you can. Like, I regret not realizing what I wanted to do until too late. I was always a writer, but I was never really making anything. I was sort of just writing these small things that never went anywhere, that I never did anything with. So like, absolutely make things. Make one sketch video, make a short film, take a year and film a feature in like 2 or 3 years, just like in bits and pieces. Like, do whatever you can to have something to show for it, because the only way that you're really going to learn is to do the thing. Mm-hmm. And the only way you're going to do the thing is if you do the thing. So start as early as possible and just make as many things as you can, so that by the time, you're at a place where you want to make something really, really good, you will have a ton of experience to back you up.
That is really smart. Don't wait until you have the project that means so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make your mistakes when it's on your iPhone and your friends in the backyard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't be precious. Don't worry if it's going to be, premiering at Sundance. It doesn't matter. All that matters is you are making something, that you are, honing your craft, that you are having fun, and that you're doing something.
I love it. Well, it has been such a pleasure meeting you and talking to you. I have loved it.
Oh, yeah, I have had such a good time.
Thank you so much for doing this.
No, thank you for having me.
You've been listening to The Other 50%, A Herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. I'd like to thank Brie Castellini for telling her story. And special thanks to Jonathan Lucas for editing, Jay Rowe, Danny Rosner, and Allison McQuaid for the music. Please find us on iTunes and Stitcher, and subscribe and leave a review. And of course, on our website, theother50%.com, all spelled out in letters, for added features, pictures, bios of our guests, the blog, the merch, all the things. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at Other50% and Instagram at Other50% Podcast. And don't forget to check out The Other 50%, A Herstory of Tech. Thanks for listening. See you next time.